There has never been a more important time to move in a vegan direction. Whether you're ready to start, restart, or re-energize your vegan or plant-based practice, this podcast is for you. I'm Michelle Olander, life coach, vegan, ADHD matriarch, travel lover, and smoothie loather. And I know that it's the details that get in the way of your vegan journey. But I like to believe that the obstacle is always the way. So every week we meet here where I translate the tools of life coaching and Stoic philosophy. I bring you actionable tips, some laughs, interesting guests, and vegan ideas for everyone at any age. All to help you veg your best. Episode 263, 2,000-year-old advice for new vegans, writers, and everyone else. Hey, my Vedge Your bestie, it's Michelle. And when this episode goes live, I'll be packing up my battered copper-colored Rimowa suitcase from, way before LVMH bought this company, Rimowa. And then they got so crazy expensive. But anyway, that trusty suitcase has gone lots of places. The wheels are holding up. And we're going on a trip that's a little bit of everything. We're going to Liverpool for the music and the history, and to Belfast and the Titanic Museum. Did you read me as a Titanic enthusiast? And then we'll do a stop in Dundalk, Ireland before heading back home. So anyway, we've mentioned it here before. Travel is one of those things that just automatically gives us a different perspective, maybe not a better or clearer, but a different perspective about our everyday lives and environments. It challenges us to look at ourselves a little differently. And when I'm preparing for trips like this, it always reminds me that no matter how diligent, how organized, how proactive and detail-oriented we are, we don't control that much. The flights, the weather, what's on the restaurant menus, the people who are going to show up along the way. But we do control how we show up. It's like a real-time, real-life, choose-your-own-adventure story, the ones I used to love as a kid. And this is kind of, in a way, the heart of today's episode. It's the link between the ancient Stoics, ancient Stoic wisdom, going vegan, the writing I've been doing, and everything else. So, when I started this podcast 5 years ago this month, I included quite a lot about the Stoics. And in fact, my producer, Charlie, even had a sound effect for it when I quoted one of the Stoics, because, it was happening that often. And I thought it would also draw attention to the fact that it wasn't my statement, that it belonged to one of the Stoics, very often Epictetus or Marcus Aurelius. And now Charlie has just moved house and moved his studio, so I'm wondering if he's going to be able to put his hands on that sound effect. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is the Stoics have been influencing this podcast for 5 years, and they've influenced me for a very long time, long before I became vegan. But because of the many ways I'm able to overcomplicate things, the Stoics and their wisdom drifted in and out of my consciousness, and I don't think I had I didn't have a secure practice that supported me in those ideas and teachings. And when I found coaching, I loved the way that coaching was exactly the practice that would focus me on what it is I can actually influence. Our choices, our mindset, our integrity. And as I was working through my 30-day writing challenge in August, which many of you were kind enough to support me on, I kept circling back to the lessons of the Stoics, because honestly, it was so clear to me that writing a book draft in 30 days and sticking to a vegan lifestyle, they share something in common. They demand Well, they demand us to show up even when it feels foolish and awkward and messy and imperfect. And that's why my project was called How You Go Vegan. Well, it's how you do everything. Now, in that 30-day kind of book sprint for a draft, I did an essay which was about 20 or, I don't know, I think it might have been almost 25 Stoic teachings, Stoic lessons, mostly from Epictetus. And I thought that would make for a bit of a long walk here on a podcast episode. So I just wanted to pick 4 or 5 for today's episode. But if you're interested in more, I will happily comply anytime, or I'll send you the essay I wrote. But Charlie, we'll see if he can find that little sound effect. And here are 4 pieces of Stoic wisdom that I think are especially helpful if you're trying to lean into veganism, or if there's another creative or sticky practice you've been wrestling with. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. That's Epictetus. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. And let's start with this one. Let's start with this one because I can relate to it, because it's true in both veganism and writing and in everything else I've had the temerity to step into over the years. When you start asking for soy milk in your latte, or telling people you've got a podcast, or you're bringing quinoa black bean burgers to the cookout, people sometimes look at you sideways. Sometimes it feels awkward. Sometimes it feels foolish. Sometimes you can't just blend in or ride in on the personality you already taught them to expect. And when I started publishing these messy first drafts on Substack every single day for 30 days in August, trust me, I felt extremely foolish. And I felt very vulnerable telling people I was writing a book draft in a month and making it public in its not polished version. And that did not feel impressive at all. It just felt extremely risky. But Epictetus tells us progress begins where pride ends. And if we're willing to be seen as foolish or stupid, we're already on a path to improvement, confidence, and bravery. So ask yourself every time you listen to Epictetus, where are you hesitating because you don't really want to look silly? Because that might be exactly where your next step is. All right, another bit of Stoic wisdom from a couple millennia ago. It is the nature of the wise to resist pleasures, but the nature of the foolish to be a slave to them. It is the nature of the wise to resist pleasures, and the nature of the foolish to be a slave to them. And this always reminds me of the classic line, "But bacon though," or "I could never give up cheese." How many times, if you're on a plant-based journey or a vegan journey, how many times have you heard that? Or maybe even you said it yourself. Stoicism reframes discipline not as deprivation, not as restriction, but as a strength. And when we choose long-term values that are for other people, like compassion and health and sustainability and the environment over a fleeting snack of bacon or cheese, we might actually be doing something that kind of blows our own mind about who we are and what we're capable of. And the same goes for writing. The same principle applies. It is much easier for me to scroll Instagram or reorganize my pantry, or even my specialty, which is procrastalaundry. Do you know this term, procrastalaundry? It's when the laundry looks like something you could actually Not only could actually do, something you absolutely must do right now, instead of the thing you had planned to do, the thing that is important to you. But each time I resist some of those easy wins, and I sit down and write, even I've decided the rules are, even if I just write one awkward sentence, I win. I win. And listen, this is not about being perfect, but it's about the practice. It's about practicing those muscles of choice and decision making ahead of time. Because if we always choose the easy thing, we never, ever have those muscles available to us for the meaningful thing. Now, difficulties. Epictetus said, difficulties are things that show a person who and what they are. And this always hits me. It's hitting me right now because I'm about to travel. And travel brings its share of difficulties. I have known grown humans to burst into tears with airport issues and travel delays, and airports, can be that setting for where the only vegan option are Pringles and a banana. And actually, I'm not certain about Pringles. Are Pringles vegan? Pringles and a banana. That sounded funny when I wrote it, and now I'm not sure if they're actually vegan. But family traditions don't always match your plate. Sitting in a cafe in Belfast where the soup of the day might be, I don't know, lamb stew. I don't know what's ahead of me. These are not going to be moments for me to throw up my hands. There'll be moments that will test my practice. Not to punish me, but to reveal what really matters to me. And it's the same with my writing. The easy days don't define us. They don't define me. Anyone can write when the inspiration is flowing, right? Anybody can do anything when it's easy. It's the difficult days. It's the tired days. It's the overwhelmed days. It's the days when the page is blank and a deadline is looming and, our inner critics are loud. Those are the days that show us who and what we are. Are we someone who waits for conditions to be perfect? Or do we show up anyway? It's so important. So many of you will say to me, yeah, I know, but it got hard. And hard doesn't mean anything went wrong. If it was easy, at least, have I shared this on the podcast before? My husband used to have a cinematographer back when we actually recorded things, commercials and things like that on film. He had a cinematographer who used to say, if it was easy, your brother-in-law could do it. This was not specific to anybody's brother-in-law, but it was the concept. If it was easy, your brother-in-law could do it. Difficulties are not a sign that you're failing. They're proof that you are showing up. Epictetus may be the last quote for today's podcast. So if you're all going, enough stoicism. Epictetus writes, there is no shame in making an honest effort. And as important as I personally think it is to commit to a vegan practice, how many good reasons there are, I was not always vegan, and I always tell you all that I think it's better to be a bad vegan than to avoid trying it all. And as Epictetus says, there's no shame in making an honest effort. That is the heart of Vedge Your Best. Because the truth is, whether you're vegan curious or trying to write a book or do anything new, find a job, get through your university degree, honest effort does count. And you don't have to be the perfect vegan at your family's meat-centered Thanksgiving to be doing it right. And you don't have to produce a flawless chapter to be a real writer. Showing up with your honest effort is enough. So yes, Yes, pack your snacks for the plane, order the veggie side dish if that's all that's available, write a clunky sentence, even if it embarrasses you, even if it's, even if you are the king of cringe. Epictetus would say, effort is progress. And in this perfectionist culture where virtually anyone with a phone can be a culture critic, an art critic, a health critic, a political critic, effort is still important, imperfect effort. So to put it all together for this week, I think what we're saying is, the Stoics have been saying it a long time, be willing to look foolish and resist short-term pleasures and cravings that pull you off course. Resist as you can. And let the difficulties actually blow your mind to reveal your strength. Don't let them discourage you. Let them inspire you. And trust that your honest effort, that you keep coming back to what's important to you, it's enough. Now, that's not just Stoic philosophy. That's vegan philosophy. That's writing philosophy. That's life philosophy. That's being an artist or a lawyer or a feminist or a physician or a teacher in this complicated world right now, because it is complicated. There is a lot going on right now to distract us. And here in the U.S. where I live, it's been a lot. And if you're like me, you have been feeling, I bet, all the emotions. Maybe you've been feeling like me, outrage and heartbreak and disbelief and fear, and it has indeed been overwhelming. There is a lot that we cannot change individually or instantly. And as a historian, I would say that this has always been basically true. But technology, for good or ill, has all of this in our face. And most of us already have a very full plate of responsibilities. So it's been hard. And it can be tempting to just want to check out or to minimize to minimize the good we might be able to do in one area because we can't do it in every area. And it can feel self-serving to pick one space or one issue to show up in or to model your ethics in because you aren't ready for that in other areas. You aren't caught up. You aren't informed well enough in other areas. And I personally think that is what this fire hose of information, and I use that word information in scare quotes, that fire hose of information is that content overload that we're all experiencing. It's designed to keep us consuming and too overwhelmed to actually act or show up. Rant over, I think. So anyway, as I get ready to walk through Liverpool, humming Beatles songs with my husband, or order something plant-based in Belfast, or figure out dinner in Dundalk, I will be remembering Epictetus. What matters is not what happens to me, but how I decide to respond. That's the choose your own adventure format that I loved as a kid. And that's a 2,000 plus year old idea, and I want to leave it with you this week. It's never been more relevant, whether you're at work or back at school or recommitting to your creative process or organizing in your communities or adding more plant-based meals into your family's supper rotation. If things don't just fall into place easily, it doesn't mean it's a bad idea. It doesn't mean anything's gone wrong. In fact, when things go wrong, it might just be the proof we need that the universe really needs you to show up. Even if it's in this one area, someone needs to see you so they can try to. Okay, next time, remember, you're never too late, and it's never too messy to just veg your best. Vedge Your Best podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Vedge Your Best team if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So, until next week, make it easy and veg your best.